The modern day in Assassin's Creed is very divisive. You either love it or you hate it, and I'm somebody that enjoys it. We know the modern day in the earlier games are not even comparable to what the modern day is now. That's why I got the idea, why not rank every modern day from each Assassin's Creed game? Oh, and do remember that this entire video is my own opinion. If you have a different selection, just leave it down in the comments below. I'm quite interested to see what your guys' favourite modern day is. Anyway, without wasting any more time, let's just jump right into it. Okay, so let's start things off with the 12th place, and what Assassin's Creed game I find to have the worst modern day in the series. And that is Assassin's Creed Unity's modern day. I mean, do I even need to explain myself? It was the laziest and most poorly written piece of modern day narrative I've ever witnessed in the entire series. The game practically introduces you to this woman named Bishop, who, let's be honest, none of us really care about who she is. And then they just toss you into the assassin story. There's no interesting scenes at all. In fact, I think there's only 3 cutscenes throughout the entire modern day in this game. The narrative side of it makes it seem like you're some sort of initiate assassin that goes through on the story in secret. But for what? There is quite literally no meaning to what you did at all. Based on what I've experienced, you have access to this type of video game console called the Helix, and you can see all these interesting assassin stories to explore. You then get interrupted by the modern day assassins, and they force you into finding some sort of sage. And the worst thing about it is that you don't even find the sage in the game, and then it just ends. It's honestly quite an insult to what the modern day once was. You know, Desmond Miles died for this shit, and that is how they honor his story. Now next up in 11th, I've gone with Assassin's Creed Syndicate's modern day. When compared to Unity's, it at least attempts to make an effort. Well, I say attempt, but it's also just cutscenes. We basically work for the assassins and go through the lives of the Fry twins trying to locate the shroud. The only positive I can say about the modern day in this game is the fact that Sean and Rebecca are still making appearances. We see Sean get out of his comfort zone and actually infiltrate Abstergo with Rebecca. We witness all of this through cutscenes instead of actual gameplay, which is pretty disappointing. I know some people may like that because they feel like the modern day gameplay is just a hindrance to Assassin's Creed. But for me, it's the complete opposite. I will say the fight scene between the Templars and Assassins was definitely a highlight of the modern day in this game. The music playing in the background, and even seeing Sean use the shockblade actually take somebody out was quite good to see. But other than that, there's not much to it. Yeah, I guess there's also the Juno stuff where she appears and contacts the player where she wants us to relive the memories of Lydia Fry. Those World War I missions were quite fun to do, but I don't really class them as modern day. But after that, the storyline with Juno goes completely off the rails. Instead of keeping it in the gameplay, Ubisoft goes and explores the rest of Juno's story in an Assassin's Creed comic. Yes, you heard me right, a comic. All of that hype and build up for Juno right from the very beginning, and they just toss it into a comic. What a letdown. Okay, now for the next modern day, and you're going to notice the trend with these next 3 modern days. For this particular spot, I've gone with Assassin's Creed Origins. Now if you like caves, then you definitely love Origins modern day because it takes place in a cave and a cave only. So you basically play as a new modern day protagonist, which is Layla. Now when comparing who came before Layla, which was Desmond Miles, well, let's just say it's night and day. But I cannot exactly blame Ubisoft for that. After all, the modern day protagonist after Desmond was set quite high in terms of expectations. The thing with Layla is that she's a character we don't really know much about. If you want to know any type of lore or backstory to her, you'd have to look it up in the Assassin's Creed wiki, and even there's not much information. The modern day in Origins basically just consists of Layla being sent to Egypt to find an ancient artifact. She discovers the mummified corpses of both Bayek and Aya, which I guess is kind of cool. The only bit of action that we got which kept me awake was Abstergo sending a kill team after her, but we just assassinated them in a cave. We also finally see another face being William Marr, so that was a cool reveal I guess. He basically invites her to join the assassins and she accepts, and that's pretty much it. The modern day just ends there. In terms of a narrative, it's pretty bland, but I guess it was kind of cool to explore the cave that Bayek and Aya were once buried in. Now next up after the modern day in Assassin's Creed Origins, I've decided on Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And would you look at that, the next RPG game up. Assassin's Creed Odyssey's modern day was where it got a bit ridiculous. So about after a year after Origins, Layla has now suddenly increased in ranks for the assassins. We witness her learn about Cassandra, who would wield a very powerful ancient artifact, which was a broken staff turned into a dagger. Oh, and also there was the implementation of choosing which gender you want your protagonist to be, which completely broke the law for me. Anyway, by reliving the memories of Cassandra, Layla discovers Atlantis. Yes, Atlantis. The city where the first civilization and humanity coexisted. So you can see what I mean when I say this game got ridiculous in terms of the modern day. So to sum it up, we meet Cassandra, who, shock, is still alive after 2,400 plus years because of the staff of Hermes. She then gives the staff to Layla and tells her, "You guys are f***ed. The Templars and Assassins cannot win, and that Layla is the one to bring the balance to the world, whatever that means." And then Cassandra dies and bada beep bada boom, the modern day then ends. Now this kind of got me thinking, because Cassandra lived for over 2,400 years and she specifically said she fought in countless wars and saw people close to her die. She must have seen everything then, from Ezio to Kana to Altair to even the future Assassin's Creed games. I mean, we even meet her in Assassin's Creed Jade, but of course Ubisoft are not going to fit any of what I said into the lore because that's just too complicated for them. Anyway, yeah, that's the modern day in Odyssey. It is interesting to say the least, but it is completely ridiculous. Okay, now for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and if you haven't figured out by now, the last 3 games in this video go in release order. I can respect the gradual improvement in the modern day, but it is still pretty mediocre, and Valhalla is that. But hey, at least we finally see the return of Desmond's crew being Sean and Rebecca. You know, I see a lot of people calling Sean annoying, and I don't agree. Sean to me is the best modern day character outside of Desmond. Calling him annoying is just a bit silly to me. I will say that Rebecca in this game is massively nerfed in terms of her personality. She's so incredibly depressing in this game and I don't know why. Meanwhile, Sean is still as funny as ever. Anyway, Valhalla's modern day focuses on why the Earth is having some sort of magnetic field issue. We witness satellites falling apart, power grids collapsing, and also witness the Aurora Borealis. I definitely butchered that pronunciation. What I like about the modern day in Valhalla is that it kind of sets up the events of Assassin's Creed Mirage with Basim. We witness the memories of Eivor because of strange messages sent to the modern day team. But if we skip to the end of the game, we sadly, or not sadly, depending on how you look at it, witness the end of Layla Hassan as our modern day protagonist. Basim is back alive through the staff that Layla obtained from Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And we also see Desmond, well, kind of. Oh, and then there's also the annoying and tedious animus anomalies that we experience throughout the world of Valhalla, which I was not a fan of. The main reason I've placed Valhalla here in the video and not any lower is simply because of Basim. I'm quite interested in his story. Now this one might be a bit of a shock, and that is Assassin's Creed Black Flag's modern day. Despite the modern day in this game having quite literally a mute protagonist, I still somehow find it to be quite fun. We play as ourselves as an Abstergo employee, where we're constantly contacted by Abstergo's IT manager, John. It's a very well thought out name. We basically help him out because he suspects that Abstergo has more than meets the eye. But it's revealed that his true intentions are bad. John is in fact the sage who is Juno's husband. He wanted us to tap into the Animus where Juno appears and resurrect Juno's physical form by taking over the player's body, but of course that does not work out. John just gets shot up by Abstergo security. Now the reason I enjoy this modern day in Black Flag is the freedom that we have as a player. I quite enjoyed walking around Abstergo just reading all the lore through other Animus machines or even pieces of data that are scattered around. Oh, there was one thing I disliked, and it's the fact that they treated Sean and Rebecca like completely irrelevant characters. This is Ubisoft's biggest issue with storytelling. They completely disregard a well written story, and it's disappointing that Sean and Rebecca are never under the spotlight. Don't get me wrong, I can see why a lot of people dislike the modern day. Anyway, Black Flag's modern day kind of ties into what comes after, and that is Assassin's Creed Rogue's modern day. Let's talk about that. Assassin's Creed Rogue's modern day to me is a step up when compared to Black Flag. Now despite it once again consisting of a mute protagonist as well as a first person perspective, it further expanded upon Black Flag's modern day and made it a lot better. We play as an Abstergo employee with the nickname Numbskull, and we relive Shay's memories. And once we discovered that assassins almost ended the world, we gather this information and the modern day ends. But it ends with Otto Berg giving us the choice on whether we can join the Templars or simply just die. The screen fades black after that. But narrative side aside, that's not why I kind of like this modern day a lot more than Black Flag. The reason I like it is because of the exploring you do throughout the building. You can witness backstories of some characters such as Haytham Kenway, Al-Mualim, Daniel Cross and a lot more through tablets and hacking into other Animus around the place. The modern day in Rogue also hints at future plotlines throughout. It's just a lot more engaging in terms of gameplay over Black Flag, despite it being a relatively shorter game that took a relatively shorter amount of time to develop. So yeah, whilst the modern day in Assassin's Creed Rogue is nowhere near the level of the games after, it definitely is the best out of the rest. It's definitely not perfect, but it's not bad at all. Okay, now moving on to the top 5. And from here, the modern day segments in Assassin's Creed are all good. But at 5th, I've gone with Assassin's Creed 1, aka the original Assassin's Creed game. This was of course the first game, so the modern day is to be expected as not at all polished, but it still did the modern day quite well. We play as Desmond for the first time, who was kidnapped by Abstergo and sent to their facility in Rome, where we relive the memories of Altair. I quite enjoyed this modern day because of the narrative direction it was pushing. At that time, we had no idea who these characters were, like Lucy Stillman or even Warren Village. And then once the main story finished, Lucy Stillman freed Desmond, and the reveal at the end opened up a much larger plot. But of course that's for the future games after Assassin's Creed 1. I like how you're able to walk around the Abstergo room that you're locked in, and using the bleeding effect, you can view secret messages that include references from the world ending in 2012, and also other cryptic messages. The modern day ends with Desmond locked in this room and wondering what everything meant. It perfectly set up for the next game being Assassin's Creed 2, and since it is the first game, the modern day was very exciting back then. Now for my 4th spot. This was a bit tricky. I've gone with Assassin's Creed Revelations modern day. Let's first address the elephant in the room, and that is Desmond's face. Yes, it looks nothing like Desmond, but take that aside, I found the modern day in this game to be quite interesting. The main focus of it is based on Desmond being inside a coma and reliving the memories of a very aging Ezio. We also meet Subject 16 for the very first time, which was a long time coming, and our main kind of hub for the modern day is called the Animus Island. Subject 16 in this modern day instructed us to relive the memories of Ezio once again. Well, that was until something called the Sync Nexus occurred and forced Desmond to enter it, reliving the life of an older Ezio this time, on his way to Masyaf. Now skipping to the end of the modern day part, we then meet Jupiter, who is another precursor who explains that his race was eliminated by a solar flare. He also tells us that in 2012, another solar flare will occur, causing the end of the world. Desmond then wakes up from the coma, and then it pretty much leads on to Assassin's Creed 3. Now, narrative aside, the modern day in this game was rather interesting. The most unique thing were those Desmond journey missions. I found those quite good in terms of learning about Desmond's character a lot more. It opened up a lot more lore to Desmond, and we could learn about his backstory and past memories. We play in first person going through each one, and it's definitely different from what we expect from the series. The introduction of Subject 16 was also a nice feature, because this particular character was a huge name that was always mentioned in previous games, so it was nice to see the big reveal. Now moving on to the top 3 in the video, and I think I'm quite happy with what I've decided on so far. For 3rd spot, I've gone with Assassin's Creed 2's modern day. It continues from Assassin's Creed 1, where we see Desmond and Lucy break out of Abstergo and meet up with our new characters. This would be the introduction of Rebecca and Sean. We basically enter their own version of the Animus, where we pretty much stop the Templars, and also find the piece of Eden through the life of Ezio Auditore. There were 2 standout things for me in this game's modern day. The first was Sean. I have no idea why, but in Assassin's Creed 2, Sean was depicted so perfectly. He was incredibly funny in the modern day for Assassin's Creed 2, and definitely was one of the highlights of the entire modern day. There is also that flashback Altair gameplay scene that we experienced, which was quite interesting. It showcases to us the bleeding effect in all of its glory, as well as experiencing Altair or Maria's somewhat backstory. I found the modern day in Assassin's Creed 2 to be one of my favourites, not because of the story side of it or gameplay, but purely because of how much sentimental value it gave to me. Okay, for my top 2, I've gone with Assassin's Creed Brotherhood's modern day. This to me was one of my favourite modern day segments in the entire series. It took everything from the previous games before it and perfected it so well. We play as Desmond once again, but this time in Monteriggioni. I like the fact that we're able to explore not just the sanctuary of Villa Auditore, but also go outside and roam around the entirety of the small city as Desmond. The modern day in this game focuses on a story where we're headed away from Abstergo, and we attempt to locate the Apple of Eden through the memories of Ezio Auditore. There was quite a lot of features to talk about for why I love this modern day so much. For one, the fact that we're able to exit the animus after every sequence and then talk to everyone created more immersion for me. It also gave us this hilarious scene.
Hey, what's the matter you, altair?
That's racist.
You're racist.
Really? This is what you guys are doing?
Oh no, God forbid I take a break. I've only spent the past 3 fucking weeks inside that machine.
No, you're right. Let's all just screw around while the world falls to pieces.
Hey, this isn't easy, you know.
Right, like we're all on vacation out here?
Enough! Look, everyone's under a lot of pressure, but we're the only ones who can stop Abstergo, so we need to keep it together.
She's right. We need to be a hive mind, people.
Anybody up for some reconciliatory yoga? Anyone?
You can also collect collectibles outside the villa and unlock gradually the more you progress. We even get to parkour around the inside of the Colosseum. Oh, and then there's the end of the modern day in this game. We witness one of the most iconic scenes where Desmond kills Lucy. However, the lore side of why that happened is complete bullshit to me. Ubisoft says it's because Lucy was an Abstergo spy, but in reality, the actor that played Lucy had issues with Ubisoft, and she wanted royalties for playing the role, but they did not give it to her, so they just killed her off. This of course forced Ubisoft to implement a quote-unquote lore reason to it. So yeah, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood's modern day to me was just perfect. It had pretty much everything, from Sean, Rebecca and Lucy, to exploring Monteriggioni in the modern day, and so much more. Okay, so here we are, my number 1 spot for my favourite modern day in the entire series, and I think it's a no-brainer, and that is Assassin's Creed 3's modern day. Where do I even start? It focuses on Desmond in New York, reliving the memories of Haytham Kenway at first, and then later shifts to Connor Kenway. But this is the modern day we're talking about, not the story of AC3. First off, there's something about that cave that we're in that feels so relaxing to have your modern day hub set in. We have Sean, Rebecca and also William Mars with us. My favourite parts by far about this modern day are the 3 power source missions that we get sent to. These were the skyscraper, the stadium and also the Abstergo rescue mission. Every single one of these missions were created with care and you can tell it was not rushed at all. The first mission, being the skyscraper one, was really fun. We had to parachute off a crane onto a skyscraper which overlooked the entire city. We also got introduced to another modern day character, which was Daniel Cross. Let's not discuss him, I've talked about him a few times on this channel. The second mission being the MMA tournament in a stadium, which once again was quite cool. Seeing the variety of NPCs from police officers, MMA fighters and civilians was definitely different. And then there's the third mission, where we rescue Desmond's father from Abstergo. We finally take down Warren Village, who's been a pain in our ass in terms of the modern day since Assassin's Creed 1. Oh, and then there's the end of Desmond's story. It's a very tragic one, and since the modern day in Assassin's Creed 3, it's not been remotely anywhere near the same. It's annoying because Ubisoft had the potential to create an interesting modern day protagonist after Desmond's death, but they just completely shit the bed and completely removed the protagonist entirely for Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So yeah, that's my favourite modern day in the entire series, Assassin's Creed 3. So there you have it, that was my personal ranking of every modern day in each Assassin's Creed game. I know a lot of you will have different opinions, but ultimately this is what I decided on. Leave it in the comments below on what your worst and best modern day is. I'm quite interested to know. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more Assassin's Creed content. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one.